The cameras fade in on chaos. Backstage lights flash red. Security rushes past. And somewhere beyond the noise, you can hear Rasheeda shouting, "Don't play with me, Yandy, not tonight." It's the kind of moment that feels unreal, but fans already know this is not another episode. This could be the end of Love and Hip Hop as we know it. It all started hours before the reunion taping. Producers were calling it the biggest crossover event in LHH history, bringing Atlanta and New York cast members under one roof for the first time in years. But what was meant to be a victory celebration turned into something far darker. Crew members whispered about secret texts, missing contracts, and one major betrayal that had everyone's nerves on edge. By the time filming began, the tension was thick enough to cut through. Rasheeda walked in first, polished, unbothered, or so she wanted it to seem. Cameras caught her whispering to Kirk, "If she even mentions my name tonight, I'm done." Across the stage, Yandy sat still, pretending to scroll her phone. Her silence was louder than any insult. When host Mona Scott finally stepped in to open the show, no one could have guessed what was about to unfold. The first segment ran smooth light shade. Rehearsed apologies, but once Rasheeda and Yandy faced each other, everything exploded. "You've been running your mouth in New York? Trying to paint me like I'm fake?" Rasheeda snapped. Yandy laughed under her breath. "Girl, you've been fake since season 1. The only thing real about you is your attitude problem." The audience gasped, and Kirk shifted uncomfortably, muttering, "Here we go again." Cameras zoomed in. Security hovered near the stage. Mona tried to calm them, but the crowd fed on the drama like fire. "Say my name again," Rasheeda warned, pointing across the couch. "I'll end this whole show right now." Yandy stood up. "Then do it. Because I'm tired of pretending y'all perfect when y'all falling apart behind the scenes." That line hit like lightning. Rasheeda froze for half a second before shouting back, "You don't know nothing about my life." Kirk tried to step between them, but Yandy's next words cut through the noise. "The fans already know. Girl, Atlanta ain't the same. Y'all just holding on by a thread." From there, chaos took over. Security rushed the stage. The audience screamed. Mona yelled for cameras to cut, but the footage was already live on social media. Within minutes, clips started flooding Twitter and Instagram hashtags like hashtag #RASHEEDAVs, YanDY and hashtag LHH final episode. Shot straight to trending. Fans were shocked. Some said it was scripted. Others swore this was the real reason production might pull the plug for good. Backstage, producers were panicking. The set was trashed, cast members were crying, and Kirk was seen storming out with his phone pressed to his ear. "I told y'all to keep her away from me," Rasheeda was heard saying off camera. Meanwhile, Yandy's team posted a cryptic story. "Truth hurts when it's on camera." Now, whispers across the industry claim VH1 and MTV executives are considering the unthinkable, canceling Love and Hip Hop altogether. Sources say advertisers are pulling out, crew members have quit, and Mona Scott herself is under fire for letting the reunion spiral out of control. As the footage spreads and fan theories multiply, one question lingers like smoke after a fire: was this fight the breaking point, or the final curtain call for a show that once defined hip-hop reality TV? Whatever the truth is, one thing's certain. The world just watched Love and Hip Hop die on camera, and neither Rasheeda nor Yandy seems ready to apologize. Under the flashing lights, the chaos kept building as if the walls themselves were pulsing with the arguments. People were trying to contain. Security moved fast, but words were faster. Rasheeda stood at the edge of the set, breathing hard, her mic still on her dress, slightly torn from when she pushed past a producer. She yelled again, "Turn those cameras off now." But the red lights stayed blinking. Live feeds had already been mirrored on dozens of fan pages. Clips were everywhere before anyone could stop it. Mona Scott sat frozen in her chair, her headset tilted halfway off her head. The control room was shouting in her ear, "We're trending #1 in under 4 minutes." Someone else yelled, "Do we cut to commercial?" But she just whispered, "Keep rolling," because she knew this kind of chaos sells, and right now ratings meant survival. Yandy paced behind the curtain, her phone buzzing non-stop. She looked calm outside, but her jaw was tight. She whispered to her stylist, "They think I came to play. I told them I'm not bowing to no Atlanta queen." Her stylist nodded silently, afraid to say the wrong thing. In that moment, Kirk was arguing with a stage manager, his voice loud and raw. "Y'all knew this was gonna happen. You baited them. That's why y'all micked everyone in the hallway." He threw his water bottle on the floor. It cracked, spilling across the cables. Someone yelled, "Watch the wires," but the sound of shouting drowned it out. Cameras kept swinging from one side of the set to the other. Fans online started taking sides. Hashtag Team Rasheeda flooded comments, while others fired back with hashtag Team Yandy. Then a door slammed and the room froze. Rasheeda walked back in, slow, her heels clicking one after another, the kind of rhythm that says she's not done. She looked around and said, "If we're gonna end it, let's end it right here on camera." The crew exchanged glances. No one moved. Yandy turned around calmly, raised an eyebrow, and said, "You sure you want that? Because once I talk, there's no coming back." Rasheeda crossed her arms. "Say what you need to say, because I'm done hiding." The silence felt endless. Even the lights hummed too loud. Mona leaned forward, ready to speak, but Yandy got there first. She said, "You've been lying to the audience for years. You built a whole image pretending your marriage was perfect while you were calling producers, begging to edit out your fights." The crowd gasped. Kirk froze. Rasheeda's lips parted. But no words came. Then she stepped forward, her voice low but cutting. "You don't know what I've been through. You don't know what it's like holding something broken together for the sake of a brand." Yandy laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Oh, I know exactly what that's like. The difference is I never sold my pain as perfume." She turned to the camera. "And I never begged the network to hide receipts." Mona stood up, cut her mic. She shouted, but it was too late. Yandy's voice echoed. "You want to talk loyalty, Rasheeda? Tell the fans who really leaked Jasmine's messages. Last year, it wasn't me, it was your own team, because they wanted sympathy views." Rasheeda's face changed, shock mixed with fury. Kirk muttered, "Yo, chill out, don't go there," but she didn't hear him. "That's a lie. You trying to play me on my own set," Yandy snapped. "Oh, it's your set now, right? Because you think Atlanta runs everything. You think your storyline built this show, but guess what? The network already told me next season they cutting half of y'all out." That line landed like thunder. Everyone turned to Mona, who froze, her eyes wide. The crowd started murmuring, "Is that true? Is the show ending?" The tension shifted from personal to professional. Suddenly every cast member realized their contracts, their fame, their storyline could vanish overnight. Mona stepped forward, trying to control the narrative. "No decisions have been made, we're just restructuring." But her voice trembled, and everyone could hear it. Rasheeda whispered, "So it's true you've been planning to replace us?" Yandy smirked. "Maybe. The fans finally want something real." Kirk raised his hands. "Nah, see, this is what y'all do. Y'all start fights to hide the real problem. You ain't about unity. You about spotlight." Yandy shot back. "Unity died when y'all stopped being honest." Security stepped closer, sensing another explosion. The audience chanted both names. Producers whispered to each other about liability waivers. Someone tried to grab the mic from Yandy, but she held it tight. "The world deserves to know the truth. This show been fake for years, and now y'all seeing the cracks." Rasheeda shouted, "Fake? You calling me fake when you staged your whole proposal for ratings?" Yandy said, "At least my man didn't have secret babies behind my back." The crowd screamed. Mona shouted, "Enough." But no one stopped it. Kirk turned his back, muttering, "I can't do this no more." Rasheeda's voice cracked. "Don't walk away, Kirk. Not now, not when they trying to humiliate us." Yandy interrupted. "No one's humiliating you. You did that when you started lying to protect an image." Rasheeda took a deep breath. "You know what? I'm tired of every woman in this business tearing another one down to prove she real. We all been through hell, but you don't see me trying to destroy your name on national TV." Yandy stepped closer. "Girl, this is reality TV. That's what we do." That's when the lights flickered again. Producers yelled something about power overload, but it looked symbolic. The whole set felt like it was falling apart. Mona's headset sparked. She threw it off, yelling, "Cut everything before this ruins us." Butso Mion from the tech booth shouted back, "It's too late, it's already." On the live stream across social media, the meltdown became an instant wildfire, clips hitting millions of views within minutes. Bloggers started posting reactions, fans dissected every frame, lip reading arguments frame by frame. TMZ posted sources confirm Love and Hip Hop may face permanent shutdown after on-set altercation, while gossip pages reposted crying emojis and shocked faces. One fan wrote, "This feels like watching the funeral of reality TV." Another replied, "Nah, this." Backstage, Jasmine Washington peeked from the dressing area, whispering to Carly, "Red Bay really ending it, huh?" Carly shrugged. "Girl, if they cancel it, I'm leaking every unaired scene I got." Jasmine laughed bitterly. "You always knew how to turn a mess into a check." Mona was in a corner now, phone pressed to her ear, talking to a network executive. Her voice was shaking. "I can fix this, just give me one more day. We'll cut the footage. We'll spin it like a publicity stunt." She paused, listening to the silence on the other end, then her eyes widened. "You can't be serious. You can't cancel it. Now we still have contracts." She hung up slowly, her hands trembling. Kirk turned to her. "They pulling the plug, aren't She didn't answer, she just looked toward the stage, where Rasheeda and Yandy still stood apart, neither willing to back down. The crowd was restless, producers were whispering legal phrases like breach and liability. Someone said the network lawyers already drafting statements outside the studio. Paparazzi lined the gates, flashing lights as cars pulled up, fans shouting questions. Is the show cancelled? Did Yandy get fired? Did Rasheeda quit? The cast members avoided eye contact, some covered their faces, others smiled, pretending everything was fine. Inside, Rasheeda finally sat down on the stage, her voice hoarse. I gave this show my life, I built my brand on loyalty, and y'all want to throw it away. For ratings, Yandy crossed her arms. Don't act like you didn't chase ratings. We all did, we all sold a little piece of ourselves. Rasheeda shook her head. Nah, I sold the story, not my soul. Mona finally spoke, her voice soft but final. We're done for today, everyone go home. But nobody moved. Cameras still rolled because instinct told them this. Was history being made, the end of something bigger than just another episode? And somewhere deep down, every person in that room knew that when the credits finally rolled tonight, they might never come back to this stage again. Rasheeda sat still for a moment, staring at the empty stage as crew members quietly packed up cords and lights. The echo of Yandy's words kept circling in her head like a song she couldn't turn off. Kirk stood a few feet away, avoiding her eyes, scrolling his phone for updates. Every gossip page already had screenshots of the argument. Headlines screamed Rasheeda snaps on Yandy live on set, and Love and Hip Hop production halts after violent exchange. The noise outside grew louder, fans were chanting behind the studio gates. Some yelling support, some recording for TikTok. Security was overwhelmed. Mona was gone. She had left minutes ago, chased by 2 assistants and a lawyer. Rasheeda finally stood, brushed off her dress, and said softly, "They're not gonna do me like this." She walked straight to the dressing rooms where Yandy was removing her lashes into the mirror. Yandy didn't turn around when she entered, she just said, "You want round 2? Rasheeda said, "Nah, I just want you to tell me why you did that." Yandy looked at her reflection, her tone calm. "Because you lied, and you acted like everybody else was beneath you. I got tired of pretending." Rasheeda stepped closer. "Pretending about what? That I got problems like anybody else? You think I wanted to air out my marriage for entertainment? You think I like being judged every week?" Yandy finally faced her. "No, I think you liked control. That's what this show gave you, power over the narrative, power over people like me." Rasheeda clenched her jaw. "You sound real self-righteous for someone who used her man's prison story for views." Yandy shot back. "Yeah, and I faced it. I didn't hide behind filters and boutiques. I showed my pain raw and uncut. That's why fans respect me, not because I'm perfect, but because I'm real." The air felt heavy, neither of them blinked. Rasheeda whispered, "You really think this show gonna survive without me?" Yandy smirked. "Baby, this show was never about you, it was about the drama, and right now drama is all they got." A producer quietly peeked through the door. "They want both of y'all to stay for interviews for the press release." Yandy laughed. "Press release, huh?" Translation, "They want us to pretend we still cool for damage control." Rasheeda said, "Tell them I'm not doing no fake reunion." Spin, and walked out, heels striking the floor in hard rhythm outside the corridor. Kirk caught up. "Rash, slow down, you can't leave like this." She snapped. "Don't call me that, not now." He said, "We gotta think smart, the network can spin this if we keep quiet for a few days." She turned on him. "Oh, now, you wanna think smart? Where was that energy when they was clowning me online last season? You let me fight alone every time." Kirk sighed. "You don't get it, they set this whole thing up. Mona been planning this since the ratings dropped." Rasheeda stopped walking. "What are you saying?" He hesitated, then said, "They leaked those texts on purpose to start a feud because the sponsors been pulling out. They needed a scandal." Her eyes widened. "And you knew?" He didn't answer. That was enough. She walked away, her voice breaking. "You let them destroy everything we built." Kirk muttered, "I tried to warn you, but she was gone by the time." He finished his sentence. Meanwhile, in another room, Yandy was on a call, her voice low. "Yeah, I said what I said, and no, I don't regret it. They've been trying to box me out since last year. Tell them if they fire me, I'll leak the footage myself." She ended the call, tossed her phone on the couch, and stared into space. Her assistant whispered, "You sure about this? The internet already dragging both of y'all." Yandy replied, "Let them drag me. I'd rather be hated for telling the truth than loved for being fake." In the parking lot, journalists were camped outside, flashing lights from every direction. When Rasheeda finally came out wearing her oversized coat, fans screamed her name, microphones shoved toward her face. "Is Love and Hip Hop canceled? Did Yandy get fired? Are you quitting the show?" She didn't answer. She just said, "You'll see the truth soon enough," and got into her car. Back inside, Kirk was arguing with Mona over the phone. "You can't just cancel the whole franchise over one fight. You know how many people depend on this money." Mona's voice came through cold. It's bigger than a fight, Kirk. We got executives calling it toxic culture. They saying it's time to move on. We might relaunch under a different name. New cast, new direction, Kirk shouted. So you just gonna erase a decade of history because two women told the truth? Mona snapped back. No, I'm saving the company from lawsuits. Y'all made this personal on live TV. You think advertisers want to see blood on couches? He hung up, throwing his phone on the floor, frustrated and powerless as news spread faster than anyone could react. Twitter was on fire, Instagram Reels were dissecting every facial expression, TikTok edits played dramatic music behind Yandy's speech, fans were divided, some posting old clips of Rasheeda crying, others tagging Yandy with Queen of Realness comments. The show had never been this viral, but it felt like the wrong kind of fame. Hours later, Rasheeda pulled up to her house, silence filled the space. She dropped her purse on the couch, turned off her phone and sat there staring at the TV playing reruns of older seasons, her younger self on screen, smiling with Kirk laughing at some staged dinner. She whispered, look at her, she thought it would last forever. Tears welled up, she covered her face saying, how did we let this get so ugly? Her phone buzzed again, a message from an unknown number. You don't know the full story, call me before you go public. She hesitated, staring at the text, but curiosity won. She called the number, a deep voice answered. I warned Mona, but she didn't listen. The show been bleeding money for months. That fight just gave them a reason to pull the plug. She asked, who is this? The voice replied, someone who used to work for the network. Just know they already planning a documentary about what happened tonight. They calling it The Fall of Love and Hip Hop. Her heart sank. A documentary? You serious? The voice said they got leaked footage. Yandy mic was never cut. They caught everything, even what she said after cameras stopped rolling. Rasheeda whispered. What did she say? The voice paused. She said, I told y'all I'd burn it down before I let them silence me. The call ended, leaving her frozen, staring into nothing. Her mind replayed every moment, every word now, realizing this was more than a fight. It was a takeover, a way for Yandy to rewrite history before anyone else could. By midnight, the internet exploded. Again, leaked audio surfaced of Yandy allegedly calling out producers by name, accusing them of manipulating storylines. They made us puppets, I'm done being their product. Fans rallied behind her, demanding justice. Trending tags like hashtag LHH exposed and hashtag Yandy speaks were everywhere. Mona released a short statement calling it a misunderstanding, blown out of proportion, but nobody believed it. Rumors said sponsors were dropping left and right, and one source claimed VH1 might cancel all spin-offs. The next morning, bloggers camped outside Rasheeda's boutique. Reporters waited at Frost Bistro. Yandy was seen boarding a flight to New York, wearing sunglasses and a hoodie, paparazzi yelling, Yandy, are you the reason the show's ending? She smiled slightly and said, maybe I'm the reason something new begins. Back in Atlanta, Kirk watched the live coverage with a cold cup of coffee beside him. The world around him felt like it was dissolving. His phone buzzed again, a message from Mona. Meet me at the studio in an hour, we need to talk about the footage. He sighed, rubbing his temples, knowing the storm wasn't over. It was just changing direction, because behind all the public drama, there was something deeper brewing, something that could either resurrect the empire or bury it for good, and that was the thought that carried into the next confrontation. Studio, where nothing was as it seemed anymore. The studio was nearly empty when Kirk arrived. Only two security guards stood near the door, whispering into radios. The floors still smelled like sweat and broken lights. The posters of smiling cast members looked haunting. Now their printed laughter mocking the silence inside. Mona was seated in the control booth, wearing sunglasses. Despite the dim light, her laptop open in front of her, she didn't look up when Kirk entered. She just said, you're late, he replied. I had to drive past 15 reporters, they all asking if we shut down for good. She finally looked up. We're not shut down yet, but we might be by morning. Kirk stepped closer. So what's this about footage? Mona turned the screen toward him. The video showed the chaos from the night before, but this angle was different. It was a behind-the-scenes feed. No one was supposed to see Yandy. Off camera, still micked, whispering to someone on the phone, her voice cold and steady. Everything went according to plan. They can't spin this. Now the truth out, and the network can't silence all of us. Kirk froze. What plan? What truth? Mona said, keep watching. The clip continued. Yandy walked offset and into a hallway, camera following from behind. She looked straight into it at one point, saying, tell them, the new era starts now, we done being puppets. Then she smiled like someone who already knew she'd won. Kirk ran a hand over his face. So she staged the whole fight. Mona nodded, partially she knew The cameras wouldn't cut, that's why she pushed Rasheeda that far. It wasn't random, it was rebellion. She's been in contact with another producer, they're trying to start their own show. Kirk whispered, she playing chess while we arguing over pieces. Mona replied, exactly, and now the network wants a scapegoat. They'll blame whoever leaked the tension, they want someone to take the fall, so the brand can heal before they relaunch under a new name. Kirk frowned. And you think that someone's Rasheeda? Mona said nothing, her silence was answer enough. He shook his head. Nah, you not throwing her under the bus, not after all the years she gave this show. Mona sighed. You think I got a choice? They already drafting the press release. They gonna paint Yandy as a whistleblower and Rasheeda as unstable, unpredictable, the face of toxic reality TV. If we don't feed them that story, they'll shut us down completely. Kirk leaned on the table, his voice trembling. Then let them shut it down, at least it dies honest. Mona whispered, you don't get it, Kirk. They're already filming the documentary. They've got contracts with streaming platforms, millions on the line. They'll destroy whoever stands in the way. He looked at her with disbelief. So we just let them crucify her for ratings again, she said. This is TV, there's no heroes, only survivors. While they argued across town, Rasheeda sat in her boutique, staring at her reflection in the glass window, her phone screen filled with comments. Half love, half hate, fans writing essays, debating who was right. Her heart pounded with each notification. Jasmine walked in quietly, holding 2 coffees. You okay? She asked. Rasheeda laughed bitterly. Does it look like I'm okay? They turning me into the villain of a show I built from the ground up. Jasmine sat across. They always need a villain, it's the only way to make heroes shine. Rasheeda looked up. You sound like Mona. Jasmine shrugged. I learned from her. She taught me that pain sells better than peace. Rasheeda sighed. I can't let them win like this, not when they lying about what really happened. Jasmine leaned forward. Then don't let them, you still got fans. You still got your voice, go live, tell your truth before they do. Rasheeda hesitated and looked desperate. No, they'll twist it again. They'll call me bitter. Jasmine said they'll call you whatever makes them money, so say something that costs them instead. Back at the studio, Yandy returned, wearing all black, surrounded by her own small team of publicists. She walked in like she owned the place. Mona glanced up. You shouldn't be here, Yandy smiled. Oh, I think I should, since you used my face to build your empire. Kirk glared at her. You planned all this, didn't you? You wanted the chaos. Yandy shrugged. Chaos brings clarity, people finally seeing what this show really is, manipulation wrapped in makeup and lighting. Mona said, you used us, Yandy. You used everyone to make yourself look like the savior. Yandy stepped closer. No, I just stopped pretending. Her publicist handed Mona a legal notice. Cease and desist. We're protecting Yandy's likeness from being used in any future edits without approval. Mona tore the paper in half. You think a letter scares me? Yandy smirked. It's not fear, it's leverage. The footage belongs to me, under union Clause 17, you broke that when you broadcasted my private conversation. Mona's face drained. How did you know about that clause? Yandy replied. You forget I started as a manager. I read every contract before I signed it. The room filled with tension. Kirk whispered. So this was business all along? Yandy looked at him. Business and truth. They built a machine that fed off our lives. Now I'm shutting it down before it eats anyone else. Mona slammed her hand on the desk. You're killing everything we built. You're destroying careers. Yandy's eyes flashed. No, you did that when you turned black women's pain into primetime entertainment. The words cut deep. Even Kirk looked away. Mona whispered. And you think they'll treat you better when you start your own show? You think those executives care about your truth? They just need a new puppet with a different name. Yandy smiled faintly. Then I'll be the puppet master. Outside, reporters were already tweeting. Insider confirms Yandy Smith signs secret deal for new reality series exposing love and hip-hop. Headlines spread faster than fact. Crew members started quitting midday. Group chats filled with leaked screenshots. Contracts, clauses, threats. Rasheeda's name trended again. This time tied to phrases like unstable behavior on set. She saw it all, sitting alone, scrolling in disbelief, whispering, they rewriting me in real time. By evening, Kirk returned home, exhausted. He found Rasheeda packing boxes. What are you doing? He asked. She said, closing the boutique, at least for now, maybe for good. I'm tired. Kirk, tired of fighting ghosts. He sat beside her. You don't gotta give up, we can fight this together, we can show them proof. She turned to him. Proof don't matter when they already picked their narrative. They don't want truth, they want spectacle, he said. Then give them a better one. Tell your story before they do. Rasheeda looked at him through tears. The only story they care about is downfall. They'll never show the parts where I kept everyone together. Kirk took her hands. Then make your own platform. We don't need them no more. She stayed silent, thinking as her phone buzzed again. This time a message from an unknown account, meet me at Frost Bistro midnight, I got something you need to see. She showed Kirk, he said probably a setup. But she replied, or it's the only way to end this. Midnight came, quiet streets, wet from light rain, she entered the dark. Bistro lights flickering faintly in the distance, a man in a hoodie sat near the back. She approached cautiously, you the one who texted me? He nodded, sliding a flash drive across the table. This got the raw footage unedited, it shows who really started the fight and who leaked the story to the press. You, release this, the world will know the truth. She stared at the drive, why help me? He smiled sadly, because I was one of the editors they fired last week, I got nothing to lose. Before she could ask more, he stood up and walked out, leaving her alone with the evidence. The rain outside grew heavier, thunder rumbling over the city, as she whispered to herself. If they want real, I'll give them real. Back at the studio, Mona watched the clock tick toward midnight. Her phone rang. It was a network exec. Have you seen Rasheeda's post? She's teasing a video drop tonight. Something called Truth Files. If that footage leaks, we're done, legally done. Mona's face turned pale. She whispered what footage, but the answer didn't matter anymore, because somewhere across town Rasheeda was sitting in front of her laptop staring into the camera, her voice steady, her eyes red. She hit record and said, for years they told you what to believe, now I'm showing you what really happened, and that moment would change everything, again pulling the show deeper into chaos than anyone imagined. The clock struck midnight, and within seconds, every phone in Atlanta buzzed the notification read, Rasheeda Frost goes live. Fans flooded in by the thousands, then millions. The screen flickered for a moment before focusing on Rasheeda sitting at her desk, the room dimly lit, her expression calm but heavy. She looked straight into the camera and said, this ain't no promo, this ain't no storyline, this is my truth and y'all can take it how you want. Her voice trembled slightly, then steadied, they've been lying to y'all for years. They make us fight, they script our pain, they cut out the parts where we real and leave in the ones that break us so y'all can talk about us online, like we props. Comments flooded instantly, we believe you, queen, spill it all, sis, is Yandy lying? Rasheeda nodded slowly as if she could feel their energy. Yeah, I said her name, cause she made it personal, she wanted this smoke, so let me show you where it started. She plugged in the flash drive, clicked play, and the video filled the screen, split into clips unseen by the public. I showed producers whispering in a back room days before the reunion, one of them saying, if we push Rasheeda and Yandy into the same segment, it'll explode. We need studio where nothing was as it seemed anymore. The studio was nearly empty when Kirk arrived. Only 2 security guards stood near the door, whispering into radios. The floors still smelled like sweat and broken lights. The posters of smiling cast members looked haunting. Now their printed laughter mocking the silence inside. Mona was seated in the control booth wearing sunglasses. Despite the dim light, her laptop open in front of her, she didn't look up when Kirk entered. She just said, you're late, he replied. I had to drive past 15 reporters, they all asking if we shut down for good. She finally looked up. We're not shut down yet, but we might be by morning. Kirk stepped closer. So what's this about footage? Mona turned the screen toward him. The video showed the chaos from the night before, but this angle was different. It was a behind-the-scenes feed. No one was supposed to see Yandy. Off camera, still micked, whispering to someone on the phone, her voice cold and steady. Everything went according to plan. They can't spin this. Now the truth out, and the network can't silence all of us. Kirk froze. What plan? What truth? Mona said, keep watching. The clip continued. Yandy walked off set and into a hallway, camera following from behind. She looked straight into it at one point, saying, tell them, the new era starts now, we done being puppets. Then she smiled like someone who already knew she'd won. Kirk ran a hand over his face. So she staged the whole fight? Mona nodded. Partially she knew the cameras wouldn't cut, that's why she pushed Rasheeda that far. It wasn't random, it was rebellion. She's been in contact with another producer, they're trying to start their own show. Kirk whispered, she playing chess while we arguing over pieces? Mona replied, exactly, and now the network wants a scapegoat. They'll blame whoever leaked the tension, they want someone to take the fall, so the brand can heal before they relaunch under a new name. Kirk frowned. And you think that someone's Rasheeda? Mona said nothing. Her silence was answer enough. He shook his head. Nah, you not throwing her under the bus, not after all the years she gave this show. Mona sighed. You think I got a choice? They already drafting the press release. They gonna paint Yandy as a whistleblower and Rasheeda as unstable, unpredictable, the face of toxic reality TV. If we don't feed them that story, they'll shut us down completely. Kirk leaned on the table, his voice trembling. Then let them shut it down, at least it dies honest. Mona whispered, "You don't get it, Kirk. They're already filming the documentary. They've got contracts with streaming platforms, millions on the line. They'll destroy whoever stands in the way." He looked at her with disbelief. "So we just let them crucify her for ratings again," she said. "This is TV, there's no heroes, only survivors." While they argued across town, Rasheeda sat in her boutique, staring at her reflection in the glass window, her phone screen filled with comments. Half love, half hate, fans writing essays, debating who was right. Her heart pounded with each notification. Jasmine walked in quietly, holding 2 coffees. "You okay?" she asked. Rasheeda laughed bitterly. "Does it look like I'm okay? They turning me into the villain of a show I built from the ground up." Jasmine sat across. "They always need a villain. It's the only way to make heroes shine." Rasheeda looked up. "You sound like Mona." Jasmine shrugged. "I learned from her. She taught me that pain sells better than peace." Rasheeda sighed. "I can't let them win like this, not when they lying about what really happened." Jasmine leaned forward. "Then don't let them. You still got fans. You still got your voice. Go live. Tell your truth before they do." Rasheeda hesitated and looked desperate. "No, they'll twist it again. They'll call me bitter." Jasmine said, "They'll call you whatever makes them money, so say something that costs them instead." Back at the studio, Yandy returned, wearing all black, surrounded by her own small team of publicists. She walked in like she owned the place. Mona glanced up. "You shouldn't be here," Yandy smiled. "Oh, I think I should, since you used my face to build your empire." Kirk glared at her. "You planned all this, didn't you? You wanted the chaos." Yandy shrugged. "Chaos brings clarity. People finally seeing what this show really is: manipulation wrapped in makeup and lighting." Mona said, "You used us, Yandy. You used everyone to make yourself look like the savior." Yandy stepped closer. "No, I just stopped pretending." Her publicist handed Mona a legal notice. "Cease and desist. We're protecting Yandy's likeness from being used in any future edits without approval." Mona tore the paper in half. "You think a letter scares me?" Yandy smirked. "It's not fear, it's leverage. The footage belongs to me, under union Clause 17, you broke that when you broadcasted my private conversation." Mona's face drained. "How did you know about that clause?" Yandy replied. "You forget I started as a manager. I read every contract before I signed it." The room filled with tension. Kirk whispered, "So this was business all along?" Yandy looked at him. "Business and truth. They built a machine that fed off our lives. Now I'm shutting it down before it eats anyone else." Mona slammed her hand on the desk. "You're killing everything we built. You're destroying careers." Yandy's eyes flashed. "No, you did that when you turned black women's pain into primetime entertainment." The words cut deep. Even Kirk looked away. Mona whispered, "And you think they'll treat you better when you start your own show? You think those executives care about your truth? They just need a new puppet with a different name." Yandy smiled faintly. "Then I'll be the puppet master." Outside, reporters were already tweeting. Insider confirms Yandy Smith signed secret deal for new reality series exposing love and hip-hop. Headlines spread faster than fact. Crew members started quitting midday. Group chats filled with leaked screenshots. Contracts, clauses, threats. Rasheeda's name trended again, this time tied to phrases like unstable behavior on set. She saw it all, sitting alone, scrolling in disbelief, whispering, "They rewriting me in real time." By evening, Kirk returned home, exhausted. He found Rasheeda packing boxes. "What are you doing?" he asked. She said, "Closing the boutique, at least for now, maybe for good." "I'm tired." Kirk, tired of fighting ghosts. He sat beside her. "You don't gotta give up. We can fight this together. We can show them proof." She turned to him. "Proof don't matter when they already picked their narrative. They don't want truth, they want spectacle," he said. "Then give them a better one. Tell your story before they do." Rasheeda looked at him through tears. "The only story they care about is downfall. They'll never show the parts where I kept everyone together." Kirk took her hands. "Then make your own platform. We don't need them no more." She stayed silent, thinking as her phone buzzed again. This time a message from an unknown account. "Meet me at Frost Bistro midnight. I got something you need to see." She showed Kirk. He said, "Probably a setup." But she replied, "Or it's the only way to end this." Midnight came. Quiet streets, wet from light rain. She entered the dark bistro, lights flickering faintly in the distance. A man in a hoodie sat near the back. She approached cautiously. "You the one who texted me?" He nodded, sliding a flash drive across the table. "This got the raw footage unedited. It shows who really started the fight and who leaked the story to the press. You release this, the world will know the truth." She stared at the drive. "Why help me?" He smiled sadly. "Because I was one of the editors they fired last week. I got nothing to lose." Before she could ask more, he stood up and walked out, leaving her alone with the evidence. The rain outside grew heavier, thunder rumbling over the city, as she whispered to herself, "If they want real, I'll give them real." Back at the studio, Mona watched the clock tick toward midnight her phone rang. It was a network exec. Have you seen Rasheeda's post? She's teasing a video drop tonight. Something called Truth Files. If that footage leaks, we're done, legally done. Mona's face turned pale. She whispered what footage, but the answer didn't matter anymore because somewhere across town Rasheeda was sitting in front of her laptop staring into the camera, her voice steady, her eyes red. She hit record and said, "For years they told you what to believe, now I'm showing you what really happened," and that moment would change everything, again pulling the show deeper into chaos than anyone imagined. The clock struck midnight, and within seconds, every phone in Atlanta buzzed the notification read, "Rasheeda Frost goes live." Fans flooded in by the thousands, then millions. The screen flickered for a moment before focusing on Rasheeda sitting at her desk, the room dimly lit, her expression calm but heavy. She looked straight into the camera and said, "This ain't no promo, this ain't no storyline, this is my truth and y'all can take it how you want." Her voice trembled slightly then steadied. "They've been lying to y'all for years. They make us fight, they script our pain, they cut out the parts where we real and leave in the ones that break us so y'all can talk about us online like we props." Comments flooded instantly. "We believe you, Queen, spill it all. Sis, is Yandy lying?" Rasheeda nodded slowly as if she could feel their energy. "Yeah, I said her name, cause she made it personal, she wanted this smoke, so let me show you where it started." She plugged in the flash drive, clicked play, and the video filled the screen, split into clips unseen by the public. I showed producers whispering in a back room days before the reunion, one of them saying, "If we push Rasheeda and Yandy into the same segment, it'll explode. We need a spark, enough. Make sure cameras don't cut. Even if they fight, it'll trend." Gasps filled the chat, fans spamming the live with shocked emojis. The next clip showed a stage manager handing Yandy her mic, "Don't stop rolling no matter what happens," followed by Yandy smirking and saying, "Oh, don't worry, I won't." Rasheeda paused the video. "So when I walked on that stage, I was already set up to fail. They wanted drama, not peace, and I fell right into it. But what they didn't expect was for me to have proof." She clicked to the next clip, showing Mona in the control room shouting, "Let it roll, this is gold, this is the finale we need." Fans went wild, comments pouring, "Mona, you fake, cancel the whole franchise. This is sick." Then came the audio file. Yandy after the fight off camera saying, "They'll never see it coming. I told them the only way to kill the show was to burn it alive." The crowd watching online went silent. Rasheeda leaned in closer. "You hear that? Burn it alive." She meant every word. Her voice cracked, but she kept going. "I gave my heart to this show. My family went through hell on camera for why? All to have something real, but all they cared about was who cried the loudest, who threw the first drink, who bled the most for ratings within minutes." Hashtag Truth Files trended across every platform. Bloggers reposted the entire stream. Reaction videos popped up mid-broadcast. Even news anchors started mentioning it on morning segments. Yandy's phone began buzzing non-stop. She watched the live with her publicist beside her, eyes widening when she heard her own voice. "They leaked it. She actually leaked it," she whispered. The publicist stammered, "We can spin this. We'll say it's deepfake audio." Yandy shook her head. "Nah, that's me. I remember saying it, but not like that. They cut it, they twisted it." She jumped on her own live moments later, trying to do damage control. "Y'all need to understand context. That clip was from months ago. I was talking about production, not the cast. I never wanted to hurt Rasheeda or end the show." Fans filled her chat with split opinions, some defending her, others calling her manipulative. "Nah, you said what? You said." One wrote, "Burn it alive means burn it alive." Back in the Frost household, Kirk was pacing the living room, saying, "Baby, this thing blowing up too big. The lawyers just called. They saying we might get sued for breaching Yandy." Rasheeda looked up from her phone. "I don't care. They can't hide the truth anymore. I'm done being quiet." He rubbed his head. "But you showing footage that belonged to the network, that's dangerous." She said, "You think I'm scared? After what they did to me, this ain't about contracts, it's about conscience." Mona sat in her office, phone glued to her ear, shouting at an assistant, "Take it down off YouTube. Now I don't care how many copies there are, shut it down." But the assistant whispered, "It's too late, Mona. There's mirrors everywhere. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, even TikTok users re-uploaded already. It's gone global." Mona slammed the desk. "This can't be happening. My whole career can't end over one fight." Her voice dropped low. "They gonna make me the villain next, watch. They always do." Hours later, news networks began covering the fallout. One anchor read headlines, "Live, Love and Hip Hop Collapse. Fans demand accountability after leaked footage exposes manipulation." Another said, "Executives under investigation for unethical reality TV practices." The scandal spiraled beyond entertainment. becoming a conversation about exploitation in media while the cast members, scattered like pieces of a broken mirror. Yandy's team scheduled a press conference, but only a handful of outlets showed up. She took the mic, her voice unsteady. I admit I said some things I shouldn't have, but I never wanted to end what we built. I just wanted it to change. We all been used, me included. A reporter asked, so you confirmed the clip was real? She sighed. Yeah, it was real, but it wasn't the whole truth. Reporters shouted questions. She stepped back, whispering, they'll never understand. Meanwhile, Rasheeda's live hit 10 million views within 24 hours. People outside Frost Bistro held candles, calling it the death of reality TV. As we knew it, others blasted speakers playing the leaked audio, chanting, we want truth, not scripts. Kirk tried calming her. You turned into a symbol, now this bigger than the show. She looked at him. I didn't ask to be a symbol. I just wanted to be seen right for once. By evening, rumors spread that major sponsors pulled out officially. VH1 suspended all future filming. The network released a short statement. Due to recent events, the Love and Hip Hop franchise is under review. We are committed to transparency moving forward. Fans read it as a quiet confirmation of death. Mona sat in her office staring at the message on her screen, the glow lighting her tired face. She whispered, so this is how it ends. But it didn't end. It transformed. The next day, a new account appeared online calling itself Reality Reborn, posting cryptic clips from unseen cameras with captions like, you saw the lie, now see the truth. Rasheeda saw the post and frowned. This ain't from me. Kirk said so. Who's posting it then? At that same moment, Yandy's phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. You thought you burned it, but the fire just started. She froze, her breath caught. What does that even mean? Her publicist asked, but she didn't answer. Because far from Atlanta, in a Los Angeles editing room, someone was piecing together hours of unused footage, smiling to themselves as headlines screamed across the country. This time, it wasn't VH1, it wasn't Mona, it wasn't the cast, it was a rival network quietly building a new series using everything that just happened, calling it The Fall and Rise of Hip Hop Queens. And in that single act, the story refused to die, it only shifted form, feeding once again on betrayal, ambition, and the endless hunger for spectacle that no scandal could ever truly kill. By the time the sun rose over Atlanta, the entire entertainment world was on fire. Social media couldn't stop talking. Every blog, podcast, and gossip site dissected every second of the Truth Files footage. The streets outside Frost Bistro turned into a stage. Fans waving signs reading justice for Rasheeda, others screaming Yandy was right. Drones hovered over her house, paparazzi lined her driveway. Kirk stayed inside pacing, muttering, this ain't a scandal no more, this a movement. The TV blared in the background, showing a news panel debating if Love and Hip Hop should ever return. One guest said this show defined an era, but maybe it's time to end the toxicity. Another argued, nah, this show gave black women power, visibility, they just scared of that now. The world was split right down the middle, and everyone wanted a piece. Rasheeda sat near the window, sipping cold coffee, scrolling through notifications. Major producers wanted interviews, podcasts offered money just to get her first post live reaction, but she ignored them, her eyes fixed on one notification from a private account message. Read, meet tonight, rooftop of Skyline Hotel, we can fix everything. She hesitated for hours, but curiosity got her. Like always, Kirk warned. They trying to trap you again, don't go, she replied. If I don't go, they'll write the ending for me, and I can't let them. That night, she put on a black hoodie and left quietly. The Skyline rooftop was empty, except for one man leaning against the railing holding a folder. He looked familiar. She realized it was Darius, one of the show's original executive producers, fired years ago for creative differences. He said, didn't think you'd come. She answered, you said you could fix it, talk. He opened the folder filled with documents, contracts, emails, legal memos. This right here proves the network been cooking ratings for years, forging narratives, lying about fan polls, manipulating edits. This goes beyond you and Yandy, it's corruption top to bottom. She took the folder, flipping through pages. Why give me this now? He sighed, because I've been collecting this for years, and your Liv just blew the door open. We can expose them together, but we need proof from the inside. And that flash drive you had, it's missing a file, it's encrypted, that file has the real smoking gun. She frowned. You mean the part, showing who ordered the setup? He nodded. Exactly the person who started all this. Ain't Yandy, and it ain't Mona, it's someone higher. A name the public ain't ready to hear yet. Before she could ask more, the door behind them opened. Mona walked out, her expression unreadable. So this is where we are now, secret meetings and rooftop deals. Darius stepped back, tense. You got some nerve showing up after everything you pulled. Mona said, I didn't pull anything, you did by leaking Those archives, you think you're saving the truth, but you're just making new enemies. You don't know who's funding this mess. Rasheeda snapped, funding what? Mona looked her in the eyes. The rival network Darius works for. They planned this from day one. They want to kill love and hip-hop so they can rebuild it under a new name. They using you both as bait. The wind howled across the rooftop. Darius said, "Don't listen to her, she's lying." Mona smirked. "Am I tell her about the contract clause number 9? You forgot to mention." Darius froze. Rasheeda's eyes narrowed. "What clause?" Mona replied, "That says anyone who participates in leaking unreleased footage forfeits royalties forever, including you. He's setting you up, Rasheeda. He just needs you to go public one more time so they can take your rights and walk away clean." Rasheeda stepped back, her voice shaking. "Is that true?" Darius didn't answer. Mona took a step closer. "He's using you just like the network did, and if you don't believe me, check the folder." Page 32, she flipped it open, and there it was, his signature at the bottom of a clause granting full ownership of leaked material to a company named Arcade Studios. Her heart sank. "So you've been filming this whole time?" Mona, her hands trembled, plugging it into her laptop. The video played Mona sitting in what looked like a hotel room, her tone tired, defeated. "If you're watching this, it means the show finally broke me. I built something powerful and poisonous. I used people I loved, and I told myself it was art, but it was greed. I'm sorry for what I did to all of you. I tried to stop them, but the machine's too big. Maybe one day they'll make something real again." Rasheeda watched silently, tears slipping down her face. Kirk entered the room, saw her crying, asked what happened. She handed him the flash drive. She apologized too late, but she finally did. He nodded quietly. "So what now?" She said, "Maybe forgiveness, maybe silence, maybe just moving on." She looked out the window at the sunset. The show died, but maybe that's the only way we get to live. Across the world, Yandy's Y-Files became a sensation, landing her deals, speaking tours, documentaries. She mentioned Rasheeda, often with respect, sometimes regret. Fans hoped for reconciliation. Eventually, one night during a charity gala, they met again, face-to-face, cameras everywhere, tension heavy. They stared for a long time, then Yandy extended her hand. "No scripts, no cameras, just peace." Rasheeda smiled faintly and shook it. "No lies either." The flashes went off, the crowd cheered, the internet exploded, calling it the moment that healed hip-hop TV. And maybe for the first time it wasn't a performance, maybe it was real to women who started a fire, learning finally how to walk through smoke without burning again, because though love and hip-hop might have died, the legacy lived in the lessons, in the scars, and in the quiet truth that sometimes endings are the only way to start over. A few months passed before anyone said the words love and hip-hop out loud again. It became almost like a ghost, something everyone knew existed but nobody wanted to mention, yet it was everywhere, in echoes, the phrases, the edits, the tone. Every new show that popped up carried its shadow on social media. People still argued over it like it was yesterday. Fans made playlists called the soundtrack of drama. Memes kept the legends alive. One fan even printed shirts that said "I survived the reunion" and sold them out in a day. Atlanta moved on, but never really healed. Rasheeda spent her mornings quietly running her boutique, her evenings writing in a notebook she never showed anyone. Kirk joked that it was her secret diary, but she called it unfinished business. She'd fill pages with memories, names of cast members she missed, moments she wished she could rewrite. She didn't post much anymore. Her social pages were calm compared to the whirlwind of the past year. Sometimes she'd get tagged in clips of rebirth and shake her head at the dramatization. One night she wrote, "They turned my breakdown into entertainment. But maybe that's how history always works, the loudest version wins." Then one afternoon, while she was closing up shop, a black car pulled up outside. A woman stepped out wearing sunglasses and a beige coat. It was Yandy. Again, this time no entourage, no cameras, just her, and a quiet tension between them. Rasheeda crossed her arms. "You here for business, or peace?" Yandy smiled faintly. "Peace first, maybe business later." Rasheeda sighed. "Then talk." Yandy stepped closer. "They called me to consult for the next project they're planning. To reboot everything under a new title, Legacy and Lies, and they want us both back, but behind the scenes, not in front of the camera." Rasheeda raised an eyebrow. "They really that bold?" Yandy nodded. "They said they need authentic voices too. Keep it grounded without the chaos. This time they think people want redemption stories now, not scandals." Rasheeda laughed dryly. "They always think they know what people want until ratings drop again, then they'll want blood." Yandy replied, "Maybe, but if they gonna tell our stories again, I'd rather be in the room making sure they tell them right." Rasheeda looked out the window for a long moment. "You trust them again?" Yandy said. "No, I trust myself more this time. I'm not letting anyone use my pain without paying me properly for it." Rasheeda smirked. "Now that sounds like growth." Yandy smiled. So what you say, we take the meeting together, show them what real producers look like for a moment. Rasheeda didn't answer, then she said softly, I'll think about it, but I'm not walking into another circus unless I own the tent. Yandy nodded, understanding perfectly. Fair enough. She turned to leave, but stopped halfway. Despite everything, I never hated you, I just hated what they made us become. Rasheeda's tone softened. Same here, maybe we both forgot we were real people once. They exchanged a quiet nod of closure, not forgiveness, not yet, but peace enough to breathe. Again that night, Rasheeda went home and sat outside under the porch light, watching the city glow. Her phone buzzed. A new message from Mona's old assistant. You were right there, planning something huge. Call me if you want in. She smiled faintly. Typing back, maybe this time I'll write the ending myself. Months later, the headlines read, Rasheeda Frost and Yandy Smith executive produce new docuseries, titled Reclaiming Reality, premiering next spring. Fans flooded the comments with excitement and disbelief. They back together. Finally, something real. This the comeback we've been waiting for. The trailer dropped weeks later, showing the two of them sitting side by side against a black backdrop, no makeup, no filters. Rasheeda saying, we told the stories they wrote for us, now we telling our own. And Yandy adding, no scripts, just truth. The premiere night arrived, the city buzzed again, the red carpet outside the theater filled with flashes. Familiar faces from old seasons appeared, hugging each other like survivors of a war. Inside, when the lights dimmed, the crowd went silent. The first scene played footage from the chaos years before, then faded into the present. Rasheeda narrating, we thought fame was freedom, but it was a leash. We all had to learn how to cut. The audience clapped softly, emotionally, some crying. As the credits rolled, the camera showed behind the scenes clips of them laughing again, not performing, just being people. Yandy saying, after everything we went through, I realized the real story was never about drama, it was about survival. The crowd stood up cheering. Someone shouted, bring it back. She smiled on stage and said, nah, let's just let it rest where it belongs. Outside afterward, the air was cool, the city lights shimmered on wet pavement. Reporters asked if this meant love and hip-hop would ever return. Rasheeda shook her head. Some things you don't resurrect, you just learn from them. Yandy added, we didn't end it, we evolved it, that's enough. The crowd cheered again. Later that night, Rasheeda stood by her car looking up at the skyline, whispering to herself, we finally did it, we turned noise into something worth hearing. Kirk put an arm around her. You proud yet? She smiled. Yeah, maybe for the first time. And as they drove away past the flashing cameras and billboards with their names on them, she realized something. The show might have died, but the story lived, because the truth once told never fades, it just changes hands. And for the first time in years, that truth finally belonged to her. When morning came, Atlanta felt light again. No chaos, no headlines, just calm, the kind of calm that comes after years of noise. Rasheeda woke up early, sunlight spilling across her bedroom. The city was already alive. Outside, horns, buses, voices, but inside it was quiet. Kirk was downstairs making breakfast, humming to himself something old from their early days. She smiled, listening. It felt human again, real. No cameras, no producers, no fake storylines. Her phone buzzed a dozen times. She ignored it until one message caught her eye. A fan page tagged her with a clip from Reclaiming Reality, already viral, 10 million views in one night. Fans crying in comments saying this was healing, this was what we needed. No drama, just truth. She scrolled through, reading every message until tears blurred her eyes. She whispered, they finally see me. Downstairs, Kirk called, breakfast gonna get cold, girl. She wiped her face and laughed. You still can't cook eggs right, he shouted back. Still better than your grits. They both laughed. It was the kind of laughter that didn't need an audience anymore, just them, a moment, ordinary and sacred. A few hours later, she arrived at the studio for interviews. Networks lined up wanting her take on the docuseries. Her team told her everybody loves it, the reviews are glowing, saying it's groundbreaking. She nodded politely, but inside she just felt relief when she stepped into the room. She saw Yandy already there, smiling softly. They hugged without hesitation, this time no tension, just respect. The interviewer said, the world's calling this the resurrection of reality. TV done right, how does that feel? Yandy answered first, it feels overdue. We've seen too much of black women being reduced to chaos. And we wanted to show the truth behind the strength. Rasheeda added, we didn't make this for ratings, we made it for peace, for closure, for legacy. The interviewer asked, so if someone offered to reboot Love and Hip Hop tomorrow, would you do it? Rasheeda shook her head, smiling, no, because we already filmed the real ending, and it wasn't a fight, it was growth. After the interview, they walked outside the studio together, fans waiting behind barriers. cheering. Some crying one shouted, "Thank you for teaching us that healing can." Trend to Rasheeda waved, smiling wide for the first time without a trace of armor. She said, "We all just learning how to love again without breaking each other." Later that evening, she sat alone on her boutique rooftop, the city lights glittering, the air warm. She thought about all the faces that came and went: Jasmine, Kay, Michelle, Carly, even Mona. Everyone played a part in building the storm that became a phenomenon. She whispered their names softly like a prayer, not out of bitterness but gratitude, because every piece of pain had built something stronger. Inside her, her phone buzzed again, this time a call from Mona's assistant. "We wanted to let you know Mona's doing better. She saw the docuseries. She said to tell you thank you for forgiving her, even if you never said it out loud." Rasheeda looked out at the skyline, smiling faintly. "Tell her she was part of the story. To every story needs a beginning." Across town, Yandy recorded a final vlog for the Y-Files. She spoke straight into the camera. "People always asked if I regret anything. I don't regret the fight or the fallout. I regret forgetting that we were more than ratings. I learned that power without peace don't mean anything. So if you watching this, remember, your story ain't defined by who edits it, it's defined by who owns it." She smiled softly. "We own ours now." Months rolled into a year. Reclaiming Reality went on to win awards, headlines reading "To Women Redefine the Meaning of Reality Television." Both Rasheeda and Yandy accepted the trophy together, their speech simple. "We turned pain into purpose. Thank you for believing in something honest." The crowd stood clapping long after the music tried to play them off. After the ceremony, they stood backstage. Yandy said, "We did it." Rasheeda smiled. "Yeah, we did more than they ever thought we could." Yandy looked at her. "So what's next?" Rasheeda looked thoughtful. "Maybe something quiet, maybe something new, maybe a love story this time, one that doesn't need fixing." They laughed, both understanding what that meant. No more chaos, no more setups, just life. As they left the building, a reporter shouted, "One last question. What would you say to fans who missed the old days, the fights, the mess, the madness?" Rasheeda turned, smiling under the flashing lights. "Tell them the show might have died, but the love never did." And with that, she walked into the night, her heels tapping softly against the pavement, every sound echoing like a heartbeat of something reborn. Not a franchise, not a scandal, but a truth reclaimed, the kind that lives forever in memory, where the cameras finally stop rolling and the people behind them finally start living again. The following spring brought something no one expected. Peace was trending again, instead of feuds and leaked audios the internet was sharing. Clips of Rasheeda's speeches about resilience and Yandy's mentoring sessions for young women influencers were quoting them instead of mocking them. Old castmates started reaching out privately, Erica, Kay, Michelle, Mimi, even Carly, sending messages like, "You made us proud," and maybe it all had to fall apart for this to happen. The industry was changing because of the chaos. They survived what began as destruction had become design. Rasheeda's boutique expanded. She opened a new location in Miami with lines of customers wrapping around the block. Local press called it a phoenix brand because it rose from ashes. She laughed when she saw that headline, but deep down it felt true. Kirk handled the logistics. She handled the vision. Together, they had found balance again. Not perfect, but human sometimes. They'd still argue over small things, but without cameras, those arguments ended with laughter, not edits. One night while locking up, he said, "Remember when every argument turned into an episode title?" She smiled. "Yeah, and now it's just Tuesday night." Meanwhile, Yandy had turned the Y-Files into a full media company, mentoring new creators, teaching them about contracts, production ownership. She spoke at universities about representation in entertainment and how to stay authentic. Her words carried weight. Now people called her the architect of reform reality, something she never imagined becoming. When it all began, she'd smile and say, "I just stopped letting people tell my story for me." One afternoon she called Rasheeda, saying, "We should do something for the old crew, like a reunion, but not for TV, for healing. Maybe a panel, something positive." Rasheeda hesitated, then said, "If we do it, no drama, no producers, just us telling the truth, one last time." Yandy agreed. Exactly that, a full circle moment. Weeks later, they booked an auditorium in Atlanta. Hundreds came: cast members, fans, bloggers, critics, all sitting together for the first time in peace. The stage was simple: 2 chairs, 2 microphones, a big screen behind them showing memories from the past, laughter, tears, old confessions. When they walked out, the crowd stood clapping for minutes. Rasheeda took the mic first. "We came here not to rewrite history but to accept it. We lived through the best and worst of fame, and we still standing." Yandy added, "And we learned something. The power they gave us through chaos we can use through clarity." Questions came from the audience. One fan asked, If you could go back, would you change anything? Rasheeda smiled. I'd protect my peace more. But no, I wouldn't erase it because every mistake made me who I am, Yandy said. I'd listen. More talk less, but I'd still speak my truth, even if it costs everything. The crowd applauded. A warmth filled the room, a sense of shared closure that no edit could ever fake after the event. As they left through the back door away from cameras, they sat together on the steps, eating from paper plates, laughing about the old days. Rasheeda said, "We really turned all that mess into a message, huh?" Yandy laughed, "We turned pain into a brand, baby." They both burst out laughing so loud. Security peeked around the corner, smiling at the sound of something real again. Months later, the documentary of that event dropped, titled after the fame. It wasn't sensational, it was intimate. Showing conversations about healing, motherhood, rebuilding, marriages, and sisterhood, it became one of the most watched specials of the year. Critics called it the quiet revolution of reality television. Rasheeda's voice in the closing scene said, "We thought fame would make us immortal, but turns out grace did." Years passed. Both women thrived in their separate paths, but stayed in touch, sending each other holiday photos, voice notes, birthday wishes. One summer day, they met again at an award show where, after the fame was being honored for cultural impact, the announcer called their names and said, "For proving that reality can evolve into redemption." They walked on stage, holding hands, not as rivals but as survivors. Rasheeda said, "We came from noise, but we found harmony. Thank you for letting us grow." The audience stood clapping, tears shining under the lights. That night, as the crowd dispersed and the building emptied, Rasheeda stood outside, watching the stars. Yandy beside her. Quietly she said, "So I guess this is, really, the end of the story." Rasheeda smiled. Maybe not the end, maybe just the legacy. They hugged one last time as flashlights faded behind them, and the camera that once divided them caught its final shot. To women walking away side by side into the dark Atlanta night. No drama, no script, just peace. The true final episode of Love and Hip Hop. Years later, Atlanta had grown quieter, older, and wiser. Its skyline taller, its stories softer. No one talked about love and hip hop the same way anymore. It wasn't gossip now, it was legend, something that had changed an entire generation of television. Students wrote dissertations about it, producers referenced it in meetings, and fans still whispered lines from their favorite fights like quotes from a forgotten play. But when people spoke of Rasheeda Frost and Yandy Smith, it wasn't scandal they mentioned anymore. It was legacy. Rasheeda lived outside the city now, on the outskirts where the noise of traffic faded into birdsong. Her boutique had grown into a full fashion line distributed globally, and her designs carried a quiet message stitched into every label. Truth stitched stronger than fame. She ran her company her way, no partners, no producers, no middlemen. She employed women who had once been cast aside by the same kind of media circus. She survived. People called her the mentor of Atlanta, though she never asked for the title. Most days she started her mornings walking the property with a cup of coffee, the grass wet with dew, her mind calm. Kirk was still there, still by her side. They had grown into a rhythm that didn't need validation. Some days they barely spoke, but silence had become their peace. One morning, he looked up from his paper and said quietly, "You ever miss it? The cameras, the noise?" She thought for a long second before answering, "Sometimes, but not enough to go back." He smiled and nodded, both understanding the weight in that answer. In New York, Yandy had built something different, a foundation that trained young women of color in media ownership. She taught them about negotiation, contracts, and storytelling. She'd turned every bruise of her past into armor for someone else's future. Her office walls were lined with photos from her earlier years, a timeline of transformation. Whenever people asked how she stayed so strong, she'd laugh lightly and say, "Because I already survived the worst version of myself on camera." They still talked sometimes. Long phone calls late at night, full of laughter and memory. No drama. No bitterness. Just two women who'd fought, burned, rebuilt, and grown up in front of the world. Every conversation ended the same way. "We really made it out, haha," followed by a quiet, "Yeah, we really did." On the 10th anniversary of Reclaiming Reality, a network executive reached out to both of them with an idea. A reunion special, not a reboot, but a reflection. Interviews, unseen footage, letters from fans. They were hesitant at first, but curiosity won. Weeks later, they sat together again on a soundstage. No makeup, no bright lights, just a few cameras and a soft backdrop that read the final conversation. The producer asked gently, "If you could say something to the version of yourselves from those early days, what would it be?" Yandy went first, her voice calm but thick with feeling. "I'd tell her she's allowed to rest. that you don't have to scream to be seen. That truth don't need an audience to be real. Rasheeda nodded, eyes wet. I'd tell her that it's okay to forgive yourself for what you had to do to survive. We were young, and we were scared, but we were brave too. They talked for hours about the mistakes, the sisterhood, the pain, and the pride. They laughed about how fans still replayed old clips as memes, how entire careers had been built off the chaos they once thought would ruin them. And somewhere in the middle of all that honesty, they both realized it wasn't shame anymore. It was history. When the special aired months later, it wasn't promoted with flashy trailers or it appeared quietly on streaming, just titled Rasheeda and Yandy. After everything, people found it organically. It spread slowly but deeply. Fans old and new called it the most human episode television ever gave us. And for the first time, love and hip-hop was remembered, not for the fights, but for the forgiveness that came after. After the release, Rasheeda drove to New York for the first time in years to see Yandy in person. They met at a small diner, the same kind they used to film fake lunches in, only this time there were no microphones, no cues. They talked for hours. When they stood to leave, Yandy said softly, "You know, we'll always be tied to that show." Rasheeda smiled. "Yeah, but now we control what the tie means." They hugged long and quietly. When they stepped outside, the sun had already started to set. It hit the glass buildings around them, turning the whole street gold. Neither of them spoke. They just stood there, two women who had once carried a franchise now standing in its afterglow. Later, fans online would share that final moment from the documentary to silhouettes walking down a city street and caption it, "Not the end, just the peace they earned." And maybe that was the truth of it all. Love and hip-hop didn't die. It transformed. It lived on in every woman who watched them, every artist who refused to be edited, every creator who demanded to own their own story. It lived in them too, in Rasheeda's calm mornings, in Yandy's classrooms, in forgiveness, in legacy, in love that outlasted the noise. That was the real final episode. No drama, no betrayal, no cliffhanger. Just two women finally free from the script. Years passed quietly after that final documentary, the one the fans called After Everything. Atlanta changed again. The skyline grew brighter, the streets busier, but the pulse of the city, its rhythm of hustle, ambition, survival still carried echoes of the women who had once ruled its reality screens. People still said their names. Not in gossip, not in scandal, but in gratitude. Rasheeda's brand had become more than fashion. It was culture now. Her boutique stretched from Atlanta to Los Angeles to London. Her line sponsored scholarships for young women studying design. Every season she hosted workshops teaching girls how to own their craft, not sell their worth. And though she'd built an empire larger than anyone expected, she still worked behind the counter sometimes, talking to customers, smiling when they told her they grew up watching her. She'd laugh softly and say, "I grew up watching me too." Kirk had changed. He wasn't chasing trends anymore, or trying to stay relevant in an industry that forgot its veterans. He opened a small recording studio downtown for new artists who couldn't afford high-end production. People called it Frost Frequency. And he'd spend late nights guiding young rappers through their first takes, teaching them the business side nobody ever taught him. Sometimes, when Rasheeda stopped by, she'd sit in the back watching him work and whisper, "We finally found what all that noise was for." In New York, Yandy had built something even more lasting than fame. Her foundation, the real work, had expanded into schools across several states, focusing on mentorship and empowerment. Every graduation ceremony felt like a new beginning. When she stood at podiums, she didn't talk about television anymore. She talked about freedom, the kind you build for yourself when no one's watching. One afternoon, she received an envelope from Atlanta. Inside was a handwritten note in Rasheeda's looping cursive. "We've come far, but I think it's time we close the circle. Come home one last time." Attached was a plane ticket and a photo of the old Frost Bistro, still standing. The following week, she arrived. The city air felt different now, less heat, more history. When she walked into the bistro, the room was filled with familiar faces. Kay Michelle, Erica, Carly, Mimi, Jasmine, all older, calmer, softer around the edges. No cameras, no crew, just people. Rasheeda stood up smiling. "Look who finally made it." Yandy laughed, hugging her tightly. "I thought you'd never call." The reunion wasn't about headlines or ratings. It was about healing. They sat around the table sharing food, telling stories that once belonged to tabloids but now sounded like survival songs. Kay Michelle said, "Remember when they told us to fight or lose screen time?" Everyone laughed. Erica said, "And we believed them." Jasmine added, We didn't know we were the story all along. As the evening went on, they toasted to everything, the lessons, the losses, the strength. Rasheeda raised her glass and said, "We came in as castmates, left as characters, and found our way back as women. That's legacy." The table went quiet for a moment, then filled with applause and tears. After dinner, as the group drifted outside, the sky glowed with the soft orange of a southern sunset. Yandy stood beside Rasheeda on the sidewalk. "You ever think about how it all started?" she asked. Rasheeda smiled. "Yeah." Two women on opposite couches, microphones on, hearts off. They both laughed quietly. A kind of laughter that came from recognition, not irony. A car drove by slowly, windows down, playing the old love and hip-hop theme song. They froze, then laughed harder this time. Yandy said, "You think they'll ever let it go?" Rasheeda shook her head. "Maybe they shouldn't. It's part of history now." A few weeks later, footage from that dinner surfaced online but not leaked, not stolen. It was released intentionally, beautifully edited, showing nothing dramatic, nothing loud, just warmth, forgiveness, and joy. Fans cried watching it. They called it the true finale, and even the network stayed silent out of respect. Time moved forward again. Everyone went back to their lives. One by one, the old cast faded from the headlines and into peace. Years later, a plaque was unveiled downtown, a bronze engraving that read, "To the women who turned pain into power and taught the world that reality is what you make it." Beneath it, names carved in metal: Rasheeda, Yandy, Erica, K. Michelle, Jasmine, Carly, Mimi, and others who carried the torch. People gathered for the unveiling. The crowd was full of laughter, phones recording, children running around unaware of what history meant. Rasheeda stood before the plaque, fingers brushing over her own name. Kirk put an arm around her shoulder, whispering, "We made it." She smiled, eyes bright. "No, we grew through it." And as the crowd cheered, Yandy stood beside her again, both of them looking at what they built: not a show, not fame, but a legacy that outlasted both. No scripts, no retakes, no cuts, just truth, standing solid in bronze. That night, as the city lights shimmered over Atlanta, the air felt full of closure. The story that began in chaos had ended in calm. Love and hip-hop wasn't gone. It had simply evolved into something truer, something softer, something earned. And somewhere in that quiet, between the flash of memories and the hum of peace, the real final episode faded out to women walking away again. This time with no cameras behind them, no audience waiting, no drama to replay, only legacy. Only love. Listen, if you've made it this far, if you've lived through the highs, the fights, the tears, the laughter, and the noise, then you already know what this moment means. This isn't just the end of a show or the last line of a script, it's a reflection of every single fan. Every single person who ever believed in love and hip-hop. You've watched these stories grow, twist, crash, and rebuild. You've stayed when the cameras cut, you've argued in the comments, you've defended your favorites, you've made this world what it became. And now, as the screen fades, we want you to decide what comes next. Because truthfully, Love and Hip-Hop was never just a show, was a mirror. It showed ambition, survival, heartbreak, mistakes, and redemption. It showed the parts of fame people don't talk about. It showed women standing tall, even when everything around them tried to make them small. It showed family, loyalty, betrayal, and forgiveness. It showed life, raw and imperfect. And you were there for every frame, every argument, every apology. Without you, the story would have been half told. So now, we want you to be part of what's next. Go to the comments right now and tell us what Love and Hip-Hop meant to you. Tell us which moment stayed with you the most, the ones that made you angry, the ones that made you cry, the ones that made you believe again. Tell us which cast member inspired you to change something in your own life. Tell us what you learned about yourself, watching them fight, fall, and rise again. Because that's the real power of this story. It wasn't Because that's the real power of this story. It wasn't about fame, it was about reflection. And if you still believe in that kind of storytelling, the kind that's messy, real, human, and unfiltered, then hit that like button, subscribe, and join this community, because we're not done telling stories. The next chapter isn't about chaos, it's about truth. It's about the people behind the cameras, the hearts behind the headlines, and the real lessons behind the drama. You've seen the pain, now be here for the purpose. Share this video with someone who used to stay up late watching every episode. Someone who quoted their favorite fights. Someone who still remembers the soundtrack by heart. Share it with your friends, your sisters, your cousins, your circle, the ones who know that this show wasn't just entertainment, it was emotion. And when you share it, tag your favorite cast member. Let them know they made an impact. This isn't about nostalgia, it's about acknowledgement. And if you ever found yourself saying it's just TV, remember these were people learning in public, living through mistakes so we could all understand the cost of being seen. They built careers from chaos and then turned that chaos into calm. That's what legacy really looks like. It's not about how many seasons you had, or how many arguments trended, it's about how you evolve when the cameras stop rolling. We want you to comment right now and tell us what you think real reality should look like. Should it be honesty? Should it be healing? Should it be growth? Maybe it's all of that together. Maybe it's this moment right here where we stop judging and start understanding. Maybe that's the next era we create together. So don't just watch, participate. Your opinion matters here. If you believe stories like this should keep being told, hit subscribe, because the truth is, every view, every comment, every share keeps this legacy alive. We built something bigger than a franchise. We built a movement. From Atlanta to New York to Hollywood and beyond, love and hip-hop created a language. Everyone spoke the language of survival. Now, it's up to you to carry that forward. And if you've ever been told you're too loud, too emotional, too dramatic, too much, remember this. That energy built empires. That voice built legends. Don't dim it for anyone. Tell your story, your way. That's what Rasheeda did. That's what Yandy did. That's what every woman on that stage did when the world wanted silence. This isn't goodbye, it's a thank you. Thank you for watching, for caring, for arguing, for defending, for growing with us. Thank you for giving these stories power. Thank you for making this community more than viewers. You made it family. And families fight, cry, fall apart, and come back stronger. That's what this journey has been. So, as the music fades, as the credits roll, don't turn away. Stay connected, follow, comment, and keep the conversation alive. Tell us what you want next. Documentaries, behind the scenes, more truth, less filters. Your feedback builds the next chapter. This channel isn't just about what was, it's about what isn't. You're part of it now. Because even if love and hip-hop ends, the heartbeat it started doesn't. It's in every creative chasing their dream. It's in every woman turning pain into purpose. It's in every fan who believed that reality could mean something deeper. And if you're still here, still watching, still believing, then you're proof the story never really ended. So take a breath, hit that subscribe button, drop a comment, share your truth. And remember the message behind all of this. We fall, we fight, we rebuild, and we rise. That's not just TV, that's life. And to every single person watching right now, you're part of that legacy. Thank you for being here. Thank you for growing with us. Thank you for helping love and hip-hop live forever, not on screens, but in hearts. This isn't the end. This is the next beginning. Keep watching, keep believing, and most of all, keep loving. Most of all, keep loving.